So we're on Gimel Amud Aleph, and we're about 6 lines from the top. We're up to the word V'lai.
That means that the other malachas, like domestic malachas,
so you won't be asar on shvius, right? So when it says V'lai, is only the tuldas that are actually mentioned in the Torah asar to do on shvius. V'atanya, but it says in the Brisa, Sadcha le Sizra, Kamecha le Sizmor. It says you shouldn't seed and you shouldn't prune your vineyard. Ainli el azriya v'zimur. How do I know only seeding and pruning is aser? Manayin le'nikush le'idor le'kisuach. But how do I know that ripping out the bad grasses, pruning, weeding? How do I know that that's also aser on shriyas? The Tamalaymer, the pasuk tells us sadcha loy, karmecha loy. What is that telling us? That loy kamalach shebesadcha v'loy kamalach shebakamacha. The Bryce is telling us, based on the pasuk, that you're not allowed to do any malacha in the field and not any malacha in the vineyard. That would include even these other tuldas. So menayim she'im akarsim ve'im zardin ve'im faskin be'ilan. And the Bryce continues. How do I know that you're not allowed to prune a tree, and how you're not allowed to cut off the dry branches? And how do I know that you're not allowed to do this? Faskim ilan, that supporting a tree which is young, supporting a young tree. How do I know that's also asar on shriyas? Tamalaymer sadcha lai kamacha lai lai kal malacha shebesadcha v'lai kal malacha shekamacha. You're not allowed to do any malacha in the field or any malacha in the vineyard. And manayin she'im zabel. How do I know that you're not allowed to put zevel, put the dung next to the trees? And you're not allowed to remove the stones from on top of the tree. And you're not allowed to put the dust on top of the roots of the tree to cover the roots with dust. And you're not allowed to smoke the tree in order to get rid of the worms. So again, these are other types of tools. How do I know those are also aser? Which tells us loy kamalacha shebesadcha. You're not allowed to do any types of malacha in the field. You're not allowed to do any types of malacha in the kerem. So, what we're seeing again from all these cases are that it's a little bit of a steer, because before we were saying that you're allowed to do the tuldas that are not mentioned in the Torah clearly are what to do in shvius, and here we're seeing this Bryce telling us that all types of tuldas, all types of malacha in the field of the kerem are aser. So the Bryce continues. So you might think, oh, okay, so you're not allowed to do even pruning under the olive trees, and you're not allowed to dig holes under the vineyards, and you're not allowed to fill the holes with water, and you're not allowed to dig a hole around the vines to put inside of the water. You think that will also be aser? The Brisa tells us, it says in the pasuk, that says the field you shall not seed. So why does that to say seeding? It already was part of the general category that you're not allowed to do any malacha. Right? We said you're not allowed to do any malacha. So why does it specify seeding? Why does it specify it? To tell us, just like Zriya was miyuchad, was that it's a special avodah which is by a field and a kerem, meaning is you seed both by a sada and a kerem. Similarly, any avodah which is by the field and in a vineyard, that would be aser on. That would be aser in during shvius. Right? Only a malacha which you would do both by fields and by kerem. That's what's aser. But something which is very specific to a kerem or very specific to a field, that would not be aser to do on shvius. But coming back to the main point that we're seeing is that there are many other tuldas that are aser on shvius, even tuldas that are not specified in the Torah, also aser on shvius. So why did we say earlier that only the ones that the Torah say are aser, anything else would be motor? So our answer is it's midrabana, kravas machtam alma, that all these malachas, all these tuldas that we're saying in the Brisa is also, that's only a din derabana. And it brings the pasuk. The pasuk is only a smachta. So really midaraisa, the only tuldas that are aser are the ones that say clearly in the Torah.
Zmira and Tzira.
Right, Zmira and Zriya. But yeah, but all the tuldas, meaning the ones that are not all of us, all the tuldas, they would only be aser midrabanan. Samar continues. The kishkush b'shvius mishar. We said in the Brisa the kishkush, which was pruning under the vines and under the date tree, the olive tree, we said that's permitted on shvis because it doesn't apply both by a field and by a karam. But it says in the pasuk, "Shvis tishma tanim v'netashta," which tells us tishma tanim l'kashkesh and tashim l'sakel, that you have to leave it rest from doing kishkush, and you also have to leave it resting from removing the stones. So we see in the brisa that it is from this brisa that it is aser. So how can we say it? So it's a steer in two brises again. So Amrav Uku Bar Chama, Trei Kushkush you have. There's two types of kushkush. Chad Vruya Lana, Chad Stume Pili. One type of this hoeing in the ground is made for the tree, to give the tree, make the tree healthier. The purpose is that it makes holes in the ground, and therefore the moisture which is in the ground will be preserved for a longer period. But the other purpose is really to just close up the holes that are there. You're hoeing in order to close up the holes. So that purpose is not for the tree. That's for the ground. So therefore we say like this: Avruya ilan aser. If the purpose is to make the tree healthier, that's aser because you're not allowed to do that during shvius. But stume pili. But if it's the purpose is just to cover open the cracks, just that it shouldn't get ruined, that would be mutter because you're not making the tree healthier. You're just making sure it doesn't get ruined. So you're allowed to do things on shvius that are just protective measures. You're not allowed to do things which are improving the field. Okay? Yeah, containment you're allowed to do. Itmar. Hacharish b'shvius. What about, it says that plowing on shvius. So, Rabbi Yechon Malazar, Chadam or Leikev, Chadam or Eina Leika. One opinion says that if you do charisha, if you plow on shvius, you get malchus. The second opinion says you don't get malchus. So, should we say that the arguing in the opinion of Rabbi Abin, the Amr of Abin Amri Mulai, Kol Makim Shenemer Klal Ba'asei Uprapa Leisa say Ein Danan Oisei B'Chalal Upratu Klal. Basically, just get a little background over here. And by Shvius, there's a Klal Upratu Klal. The Klal is it says that on the 7th year, B'Shana Shvius Shabbos Shabbasan Yelar, so 7th year will be a rest. So that's a Klal, which is an Asay, right? You shall make the land rest. That's an asay. Then there's a lois asay which says your field you should not plant and your karam you should not prune. So that's a prat, and that's a pran lois asay. And then there's another klal which says Shabbos Shabbasan. Right? It should be a year of rest. So there's a klal uprat uklal. So usually the halacha would be is okay, fine. So it's a klal uprat uklal. So whatever's similar to zriya and whatever's similar to zimmer would be aser, which would include all the tuldas because they're very similar. So if you hold that there's a klal pratu klal over here, then any type of tulda would be aser, whatever is similar to zriya and zemira. Okay, so that's pretty clear. But over here is a little bit of a difference in the klal pratu klal because over here it's an asay, lois asay, and asay. So the question is, do you say klal pratu klal even in such a situation? So the opinion that says that you do say klal pratu klal, then you get malchus for all of the tuldas because it's included in the pratu klal klal. But the one that says you can't, then he says what you do is it's just like a klal prat. Klal says that there's a rest. The prat says only for these two things. So only those two things you'd actually get malchus on, but everything else you would not get malchus. Let's read it inside. So what does Rabbi Abin say? That kol malchus should never klal ba'asei uprat, but leisa say ein done oisa b'chal uprat klal. According to Rabbi Abin, he holds that it's not a klal prat klal, and in this situation, if using his logic, you would only get malchus for the av and not for the tuldas. So the one that says you get malchus, lastly the Rabbi. The one that says you do get malchus does not hold of this rule, and he holds this is just a classical case of kladu product law. So Amar Rabbi Bilai, lastly the Rabbi Amar Bilai, man Amar ene laika islay the Rabbi, but the one that says you don't get malchus holds of Rabbi. Mar says like no, this is not true. To kuli Amar lastly the Rabbi Amar Bilai. None of the opinions agree with Rabbi. Meaning is everybody holds over here is klal the pratu klal. So Mandam or like so long as it says you get malchus shafar makes a lot of sense since it's a klal pratu klal includes all the tuldas. But Mandam or ain't laika, but the opinion that says you don't get malchus, Amalacha will explain to you like this. The Bryson we mentioned earlier he's going to quote. It says Michdi Zmira b'chalal zriya, b'tzira b'chalal tzira. He says Zmira and zriya are one. Right? One's a av, one's a tulda, and b'tzira is also part of ksira. So my hilchasa kasina v'rachamana why did the Torah write both? Why did the Torah write both the avis and the tuldas? Why did it write it clearly? The Maimer, the reasoning is to tell us the Ahani Tuldos Hu B'chayev, Al Tuda Acharina Loy B'chayev, that only on these Tuldos that the Torah says clearly, those are the only ones we're going to be Chayev Malchus on. But all the other Tuldos, you're not going to be Chayev.
So maybe it's plowing. It's only Amanas Zariya that it would be Aser Midoraisa, because it ties into that malacha which is already specified.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it has to be Charisha, which would be for the purpose of Zriya.
For the purpose. If it's just to turn it over,
even on Shabbos, it has to be for the purpose of Zriya Midoraisa.
Right, but with Shvias, if it's to turn it over Stam, it shouldn't be Aser Midoraisa. It's only Amanas that you're going to plant.
Yeah, that's what I would assume too. Yeah. So Mar says Valai, Valai v'hatanya. Is this true that you're not going to be high for any other tool? V'hatanya, but we learned in the Brisa. Sadcha le'sizra, kamacha le'sizmor. Einli ala zriya v'zimor. How do I know that only zriya? It's not only zriya v'zimor which is aser, but nine le'idur, le'kishkush, le'ksuach. How do I know these different types of hoeing is aser? Tamalaymar sadcha like. Kamacha like malachas b'sadcha, like malachas kamacha. Meaning is all malachas are aser. Umanayin she'im makarsimim, im mazardim, im mafaskim in the. How do I know you're not allowed to do all these types of malachas by the tree? Tamalay b'sadcha like kamacha like, which tells us kol malachas b'sadcha like kamalachas b'kamacha like. So manayim she'im mazam lefarkin. And how do I know that you're not allowed to do zibul and you're not allowed to do mafarkin? You're not allowed to remove the stones. Im ashnim ma'ilan. You're not allowed to smoke the tree to get rid of the worms. Tamalay b'sadcha like kamacha like. So you're not allowed to do any types of malacha. Except maybe you can't even do pruning under the olive tree. You're not allowed to prune under the grape, the vine. You're not allowed to fill the cracks with water. You're not allowed to make these irrigation ditches for the vines. It says in the pasuk, it says in the pasuk, the field you should not seed. Zriya b'chalalis, and Zriya was part of the general category. So lama yatzasa, why does it have to say, meaning it was part of the klal that you don't do any malacha? So why does it specify Zriya, lama yatzasa, lahakashla, to connect it to all the other malachas? Lay malacha, ma Zriya miyuchadis avodah shebasada, shebekerem, just like Zriya applies both by a field and by a vineyard, afkol, shia avodah shebasada shebekerem, and that would include every avodah which is in a sada and a kerem. The problem is, so we see that all these malachas are, every tool is aser to do. So my answer is midur banan across mach ba'almi. All these other tools are only aser midur banan, and the pasuk is just an asmachta. Okay, next piece. Ki also Avdimi Amar. When Avdimi he said like this: Yacha Yilkal Taisapis. Maybe you should get malchus for the addition. And then he brought a teaching to tell us, no, that you're not going to be, you won't get malchus for the taisafes. But we didn't really know my Talmud. What was the teaching? My taisafes, meaning what was this taisafes that he thought you should get malchus on taisafes, and what was the teaching that tells us that you're pater? So we're going to have two opinions. Rabbi Lazar says charisha. The taisafes is charisha. Meaning is if doing plowing on Shvius, and the reason why it's called the Tesefes, because we only learn it out, right? Because we only learn it from a prat klal upatu klal. V'hachikam yachal yilka charisha. Maybe you should get malchus on the charisha. The asim klal upatu klal, because charisha plowing we learn out from the klal upatu klal. And this of course would hold that whatever is similar to the prat, which would include charisha, you should also get malchus on. And then we have the teaching to tell us that you're pater. Because why do I need to have as we mentioned earlier in the previous summit, why does the Torah have to specify Zriya and B'tzira? It's to tell you that only those ones who get malchus, while all the other things you should not. So even if you hold the practical clause, since we have a miut, it would exclude the Toldas, including Charisha. Rabbi Yochanan gives another explanation. He says, Yamim Shasifu Chacham Lefnei Rosh Hashanah, that the Chacham made an issa that's not just during the Shemitah year is it also to do the malachas of the field, but they made an addition that even before the Shemitah, you're not allowed to do any malacha for a few months before. We're going to get to the exact dates. V'hachi kamar Yachal Yilka Al Toisafis Rosh Hashanah Dasya Mecharish Ubekatzer Tishbais. Maybe you should get malchus Taisefis, for the additions that you're doing before Rosh Hashanah, that we learn out from Charish with Katzar Tishbais, but Nasav Law, and the pasuk tells us that you're pater. As we're going to explain later on. So first of all, what are the days before Rosh Hashanah? We said that a certain amount of days before Rosh Hashanah, it's also to do malacha. What are those days? So we learned in the Mishnah, and Masay Charshim B'Tzdelen, Erev Shvius. Until when are you allowed to do Charisha by a field of trees on Erev Shvius? So Beis Shammai calls man sheyafel pri. You're allowed to continue doing avodah as long as it's good for the fruits of the previous year. But as soon as that stopped and it's not good, it doesn't make a difference for the fruits of the previous year, and the purpose of doing any malach would only be for the future year, which would be the Shemitah, then at that point it would be aser. It's for the Shemitah year, it's aser.
Near Shavuot.
Beis Hillel Aimrim Adat Tzeres. Beis Hillel says you're allowed to do malacha until Shuas. But Craven Divrei Elu Lias K'Divrei Elu, and Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai are very close. It's not so clear. I know unfortunately talk about which one is actually earlier, which one's later,
Each fruit is
but they're
really
close.
different, though. In other words, Beis Shammai can make sense per fruit.
Right. So right. Okay, that's true.
It has its own season,
Yeah.
and it's its time where it ends. Beis Hillel is staying a cloud, just in general, doesn't matter when the fruit is, it's at this time.
Okay. If you look at Tosis Craven Divrei Elu. Kol mashmalan the aim Beis Shammai machmir ela me'at Beis Hillel. According to Tosis, says Beis Shammai is only being machmir a little bit on Beis Hillel. Shmina milsai the Beis Shammai pirshachi. Right. Okay. So va'ad masay charshin steilam. Until when are you allowed to do a charisha on just a regular fallow field? Erev Shvius. He says mishatichla halecha. You're allowed to do malacha until the moisture leaves. B'chol zman shmnei adam charshin lita mikshois. And when is that? This is Rashi's explanation. When is that? As long as people are still doing charisha in order to plant gourds and with the lice, right? So meaning is when is there still moisture? That's when people are still planting for the gourds. But once they stop planting for the gourds, there's no more moisture. So this is okay. According to this, it's every single field is different because depending on when there's no more moisture in the field, that's when you need to stop. Ella, he gives a blanket rule. Stay loving out of Pasach. You need to stop working in the stay loving Pesach time. We stay ilan out of Tzeres. While stay ilan, it's until Shavuos. So Amr Shimon Pazi, Amr B'Shur B'Leim B'Shur Bar Kapara. Rabbi Gamaliel Beis Dimnu Nimnu Al Shnei Prakma Lalo Bitlam. So we just gave 2 times that by the stay loving it's still Pesach, and the stay ilan is still Shavuos. So Shimon Pazi says that the Beis Din of Rabbi Gamaliel, they were mevatel these 2 times, meaning they thought it was too hard on the tzibur, and they said you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to continue doing working the field even after Pesach and Shavuos. So Amalei Rabbi Zer Lo Rabbi Bov, Amalei Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Gamaliel Beis Dim Heichi Matzim mevatel Kanta Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. How was Rabbi Gamaliel and his Beis Din able to mevatel Kanta Beis Shammai Beis Hillel? Well, time we learned in the Mishnah, Ein Beis Din Yachal Vatel Divrei Beis Din Chaverai. The only way you're able to mevatel at the Katan of the previous Bezim if you're greater in number and in wisdom. And Rabbi Gamaliel's Bezim was not greater in number and in wisdom over Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. So how is he able to mevatel the Katan and say you're allowed to do avodah in the field even after Shavuos and Pesach? So Ishtem so it was a good question. He stumped him for bat. He only stumped him just for a moment. So Amalei, he answered like this: Eimer Kach. That Beis Shammai Beis Hillel made the condition when they made the original enactment, that whoever wants to mevatel Takana is able to mevatel it. So they themselves put a clause in the Takana that future Bezins are allowed to be mevatel it. Mar says, but wait a second. But this is not a Takana really of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. This is a Lach Moshe Sinai. To Omer Rasi, Omer B'Yechon, Meshur Rabbi Nechunya, Ish Bikas Beis Charsen, that these 3 rules of Eser Nertias, a Rav of Anisach Hamayim, a Lach Moshe Sinai, that the rule of Eser Nertias is that if you have 10 young saplings that are grown within a field, which is a Beisa, which is 50 by 50, that the rule is you're allowed to continue doing the Charisha in the field until Rosh Hashanah. And the reasoning is because since they're very young, they will get ruined if you don't do the plowing. Right? So we learn from this halach Moshe Sinai that only these 10 young trees, that's when you're allowed to do charisha before Rosh Hashanah. But anything else would be aser. So we see it's halach Moshe Sinai that only these 10 young saplings you're allowed to do charisha. But anything else is aser. So the takana of not doing malach in the field didn't start with Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, it was already by Moshe Sinai. A rava, of course, is when they would walk around the mizbeach. According to other opinions, they would put the aravas. Other opinions, they put the aravas on the mizbeach. But nisuch hamayim, and also the pouring of the water during Sukkot. All these things are halacha Moshe Sinai. So it's not Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, it's really earlier. So Amar Yitzchak Gemiri Hilchos HaShloshim Yom L'Fnei Rosh Hashanah. His halacha Moshe Sinai was only 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. Means Rosh Chodesh Elul became Aser. V'asa Hani and Beis Shammai Beis Hillel were Matikim and Pesach Maseres. And Beis Shammai Beis Hillel came in Mersak and that already from Pesach and Shavuos. It's Aser. Isnu b'dedhu kol ha'reitz levata yovav yitl, and they made part of the takana that whoever wants to mevata this takana is able to do it. So Mara says, "V'hani hilchasaninu kroininu." Are these really halachas Moshe Sinai? They're based on psukim. The Tanya, b'charish b'katzer tishbais says that that you have to rest from doing charisha and ksira. It doesn't need to say that you have to rest from doing charisha and ksira on shvius. Ella, what's it referring to when it says charish v'katzer tishbais? Ella charish shel eresh shvius shenichnas l'shvius. It's referring to the charisha of eresh shvius, which will improve shvius itself. But ksir shel shvius sheyetz l'meitzah shvius, and also the ksir of shvius that's going to go onto Moed Shvius. Let's stop here. But to stop with the question, the question is basically is that we see it's not halacha Moshe Sinai that you're not allowed to do malacha already before Shavuos. Rabbi Akiva says clearly that's really based on Sukkim, so it's not halacha Moshe Sinai. It's from the Torah itself. It's already aser.